Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Naked Nuclear. We are doing another student spotlight, and I'm always blown away by our student spotlights and who they are, what they're doing, and how they're just absolutely taking over the nuclear world. Today we have Veronica. Veronica, would you give a brief introduction about who you are, what you're doing, and what college you just graduated from?
Hi, I'm Veronica. I just graduated from the Department of Nuclear Engineering at Texas A&M University. Whoop. And I'm also the founder and CEO of NARO, the Nuclear Advocacy Resource Organization, the national nonprofit.
Amazing. Okay, so went to Texas A&M, nuclear engineering, founder of NARO. How did that start? How did you decide, like, I'm going to study nuclear energy and engineering and I'm going to start a nonprofit? Like, those are pretty large decisions. I'd love to learn your thought process.
Yeah, so engineering in general, it's funny because I think a lot of people go into engineering kind of like you hear a lot of people who are like, oh, I was a coding prodigy by like 2 years old, or like I've always been just so talented or gifted with like math and science, whatever that means. And for me, it definitely was not the case. I really never thought that I was good at math or science and definitely did not think I was good enough for STEM. It was my sophomore year of high school, actually. I had a teacher, the chemistry teacher. He called all of his students chemists. Even if you were bad at chemistry, he called you a chemist regardless. If you were going in for a homework question, you weren't a student who needed help, you were a chemist. It's such a small, inconsequential thing, but it switched something in my mind. And I started thinking of myself as like a scientist, like, oh, maybe I could. No one has ever told me I'm good at science, but maybe I could be. So I started doing really well in chemistry. And that teacher actually invited me to do student research on solar cells. I started getting into energy, learning more about energy, and was always very interested in the environment and the climate crisis, and started viewing it from more of a scientific view of the fact that we need more energy, not less energy, but it needs to be clean energy. How could we possibly do this? Just started being a lot more interested in chemistry. That teacher encouraged me to take AP courses. So I took all AP throughout the rest of high school and applied for engineering, which was crazy for me. A&M's kind of different. We have ETAM, which is entry to major. Your freshman year, you don't declare a major. You are in engineering and you can take whatever courses you want to like kind of figure out what you want to do. I thought I would do chemical engineering, so I took a lot of chemistry courses. The professor was talking about nuclear chemistry, one of the later courses. I had taken a lot of chemistry to get to that point. I was amazed by how much energy reactors produce, and they do it clean and safe and reliably. It was kind of like a wow moment for me. And then I ETAM'd into nuclear and got in first choice. That's
Amazing.
my story of how I.
Amazing. Kudos to your teacher for calling people chemists. I think it's those little things that makes a big difference in students' lives. For me personally, I have a TikTok, and one of the questions we asked recently was, would you rather take all of your science classes again from kindergarten up to college or pluck out all of your eyebrows? People had very strong opinions on this question. And I think a lot of the people that said, I would love to take my science classes over again, always had amazing teachers and professors and people who made the subject matter enjoyable.
And I would be one of those people who would go back and take them all again. Even I say that a week after graduation. And I think it really just takes one person to have you think of yourself not as you are, but as you could be. Teachers are really heroes. And
Yeah. Before this episode, we were kind of chatting and we discovered something similar about ourselves that we both have dyscalculia,
yep.
which is wild because I'm like, I've really not met very many other people. So, with dyscalculia and dyslexia, can you just dive us into what that is and how you decided, even though numbers can be a little jumbly, this is the system? Because I think my question is, it sounds maybe rude, but what gave you the audacity to be like, nuclear engineering?
Yeah.
That seems like a good fit for these
Yeah.
things.
I'm profoundly dyslexic in pretty much every single way you could be dyslexic. I'm extremely dyslexic. And I got the 2-for-1 special, is buy one, get one free. So I also have dyscalculia, which is the math version of dyslexia. So I never thought I was good at math or science. And really, it was dyscalculia very much hindering me. It's so funny. Like, definitely the audacity part is so true. I don't know what made me think that I could. My parents love to tell this story at any family gathering, which is just so fun. I love it that I get embarrassing stories told about me. But parents, they love to tell this story about me in seventh or eighth grade lying on the kitchen floor doing my math homework and just sobbing, numbers moving around, things just not clicking like they would with all the other kids. I used to hate that story so much, but now I honestly just smile whenever they tell it because I was doing my math homework. And that's the big part. I was still doing it through tears, but I was still doing it. I never stopped. Sure, there have been times in undergrad where I was crying doing my math homework. Even if you have to cry through Cal 1, Cal 2, Cal 3, Diffie Q, linear algebra, all the way through, like, okay, so we just get it done. You can do it. I think that's just kind of the mentality that I started building. It's hard, but do it anyway.
Amazing. Yeah, I definitely remember some tears with some of my AP physics classes. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. But I guess what was your strategies to like be successful? Because yeah, I definitely had many days where I'm just like, this is horrible, but I'm trying my best. So what did you find like worked for you and that you found success with?
Yeah, so I just accepted that my brain is not like the other students, and that's okay. And if you're like that too, it's okay. I would have to work twice as hard, 4 times as long to get half as far, and that's okay. So some things that I figured out was like rewriting every single like notes that my profs would give us, like slide decks or whatever, in my own words and in my own thought process, especially for nuclear, because nuclear is so like you can't ever see an atom, right? So you have to figure out what that is for you. Lots of colors, lots of highlighters, making your notes really your own. And then again, this sounds tedious, but doing it not till you get it right, but until you can't get it wrong. In nuclear, that's really important because it's a harsh subject matter, but really just making my notes my own.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful because, yeah, advice to other students who think they can't do it, making your notes your own, color coordinating, practicing, and definitely what you said about twice as long, twice as hard, half as far. So true. And it's really hard sometimes within engineering to remember that the objective is to learn the material, not just pass the class. It's a very different type of mindset shift to get into. And so, that in and of itself sounds like a full-time job. And then on top of that, you decided to found NARO. Can you walk us through the transition of how did that come about and why start it?
Yeah, so another story, but I went on a study abroad to Antarctica. It was one of the only times in my undergrad that I wasn't around engineers. So it was with a bunch of people from different disciplines. I was talking to a girl on the trip as we were crossing the Drake Passage, and I was telling her I'm studying nuclear engineering. She was like, "What? You're so nice. Why do you want to kill people?" And I was just like, that is not what I do at all. We ended up having a really long conversation about nuclear energy and what I actually do and my actual goals with this degree and why I believe in it so much. By the end, she was full on pro nuclear. That made me realize it just takes a conversation. It takes learning what you don't know. A lot of people get their main information about nuclear from The Simpsons or the Chernobyl docuseries or whatever, whatever kind of scary, larger than life drama surrounds the idea of nuclear versus the reality, which is that it is safe, clean, and reliable. I got back from that trip and pretty much immediately started working on NARO or what would be NARO.
Amazing, amazing. And so Texas A&M has a pretty large like undergrad for nuclear engineering. It's
The
okay.
largest in the country.
It's the largest in the country. Did you start off with the idea of having a student group, or what did you envision for mobilizing this pretty large student base?
Yeah, so it started out as a student group at Texas A&M, and I founded it, but really that feels even like kind of weird to say because I got so much support from my peers and professors. It was such a team effort. So much support initially made me realize this could be a national nonprofit. So in January, we ended up transitioning to a 501(c)(4) nonprofit. Now we have people from all over the country, from different backgrounds involved.
Amazing. So what are some of the things that you guys are doing right now?
We have 5 different committees. We have social media, merch, NARO papers, which is bringing really technical, hard to understand topics and putting them in one pagers that are super easy to understand. And we use those for all different kinds of things like making graphics, small videos, whatever. And then we have our general campaigns committee, which is kind of everything else. So I'm sure a lot of listeners have probably seen or heard of the iHeart Nuclear Game Day shenanigans. So that was part of the general campaigns. And then we have our policy committee, which is nuclear policy, and it's students getting really active in government and talking with lawmakers and advocating for nuclear on the political side of things.
I remember I was at a communications conference and you had these communication directors of utility companies and reactor design companies, and they were talking about, they're like, the kids have figured it out. So it was funny to see just the impact and really how it got people to think about like how do you advocate in a number of different ways. It was funny because you have these people who are very studied and have been doing this for years, and they're like, a poster, a
Yeah.
poster on TV. Like that. I really enjoyed that story as well. I think from what you're saying, you had a lot of general support from people when you were founding this. So what did that look like? I mean, in terms of professors and grad students, how were people giving their time?
Initially, we had about 100 members, which is crazy. We're the largest nuclear department, but we're still super small. So everyone kind of hopped on and was super supportive. Gabriel Ivory is the VP of NARO. He's the iHeart Nuclear guy. So he's incredible. He's super helpful. And just tons of students pretty much dedicating their like full day. So initially it was like a few students getting out there, handing out candy on campus with facts about nuclear and just like really grassroots at A&M. And then professors, they emailed us every opportunity. They emailed out opportunities, talked about us in really positive ways. They were incredible. And then we just started continually growing and transitioned to the nonprofit.
Amazing. I mean, it's always so funny to me because I'm like, when I was in college, I was like, would I would have had like the bandwidth to like do all of these different things? Like, probably not. But it is really impressive. Hats off to you. I did want to know, what were your classes and courses? What did you find interesting? What did you really gravitate to? I think that's something within nuclear engineering as well. There's just so many avenues to focus on because it is such a hybrid of so many different technologies.
So true. You can literally do anything. It's like a choose your own adventure kind of thing. You take your initial courses, so like materials, every math under the sun. I think we do take the most math out of any engineering major. Be ready for that if you're looking to join. Then you take your nuclear physics courses, like neutron transport, that kind of thing. A lot of like coding courses, and it's very, like I said, choose your own adventure. So if you're more interested in that side, you can go there. If you're more interested in the health physics side of things, there's labs that you can take. There's reactor labs, so you actually get to work in the reactor as an undergrad. You can choose to do that as a job. A lot of students did that as their job on top of undergrad. Really, there is so much you can do. You can go the reactor route, the health physics route, go the non-proliferation side of things, policy, advocacy. It really, there is no limit to what you can do with this degree.
Amazing. And so for you, one of your next steps is getting your MBA. And so, like, what is your choose your own destiny and choose your own route going? Like, what are you trying to build?
I absolutely loved like, this is such a cop-out answer, but I really did love every single class that I took in undergrad. And I love the technical side of things. And now that I have this technical side of things, I'm really looking to get better at the more business side of things, the more marketing side of things, the finance side of things, not only for NARO, but for me and for my future and for whatever else I want to work on. But definitely for NARO. And I think they do go together. I think that sometimes we think engineering and business are two separate things, but in the real world, it's necessary to have both of them.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because there's just so many new conferences talking about financing and infrastructure and what is construction going to look like. And so it to me it's great because you can really literally see all parts of the industry. Okay, we're gonna mobilize, but like what does mobilize even look like? So there's a like just small factors that have to kind of play out as well. Were there any different like projects or like for your like engineering program, did you have to like write a thesis or do any like kind of capstone projects or anything like that?
Yeah, we did. So it's our senior design project, capstone project. It's a 2 semester project. And my team did hydrogen production, so an SMR producing hydrogen for aviation. And that was really interesting, getting to kind of see the full scope of a nuclear project, obviously, in like an academic sense. But just kind of getting to see all the regulations that go into it, the finance side, which I thought was super interesting, like financial viability, making these paper projects actually happen in real life, and how that can work, and how we can really get reactors built and not just talk about it.
Yeah, amazing. Because yeah, I think that is also within that scope of like everybody's trying to mobilize. They're like, all right, if we have 18 different ideas, how do we actually build them?
Yeah,
So that's super exciting. So where are you getting your MBA?
at Texas A&M. Woo.
Okay, AMM for life. Let's go. Okay, that's super exciting. So with the MBA, I guess what are you most interested in learning about, or um, like how do you kind of see that MBA transitioning into what you can use for Narrow?
So definitely the management leadership side of things. Very interested in like taking classes on that. Like I I kind of just like work I work with a team that understands that I'm really just doing my best, and I get a lot of feedback from them, and that's super important to me. But actually taking a class on it, I think is like a completely different thing. And then the finance side of things that I talked about, in engineering, we don't focus on that. We take like one engineering finance course, uh, and I'm super interested kind of in the whole thing to just know what I don't know yet, you know?
Nice. Yeah, definitely for sure. Because I think like just starting like the idea of just like okay like I'm gonna start a 501(c)(3) or C4 like there's a lot of steps that happen, and I was just literally chatting with a friend about like starting a business and like all like the idea to all of the like 1,000 little steps that you have to take before it is actually like a fully functioning opened business as well. What I guess my question next is like, what has Narrow taught you about like running a business, like doing these things, and then how can you, help other students like learn about that side as well?
Yeah, so I mean, really just everyone has something to bring to the table. Like everyone that you ever meet knows something that you don't. And so I think as a leader, you really have to just keep that in mind. Um, and especially in nuclear, we can sometimes put such an emphasis on like technical experience. Um, but I mean, we have an English major as one of the leaders of a committee. So she leads a full committee, and she's a rock star, and she leads the narrow papers committee. And so anyone like considering joining or getting involved in nuclear in any aspect, and you're like, oh, math and science isn't my thing for sure, you can totally join and have any kind of background. Nuclear needs more than just engineers. And so that's something that I've learned is we need way more than just engineers here.
Amazing. And it's funny because Texas specifically, it's just like it seems like it's trying to position and is positioning itself as a very like nuclear centered hub
Yeah.
for innovation, for technology, for students as well. So I'm like, oh wow, I'm excited to see kind of what the next decade holds for that. Would you have any advice for students who are looking to get into advocacy? What have you seen from, students who want to do it versus, are like maybe a little scared to like kind of jump headfirst in?
Yeah, I would say shameless plug, join NARO first and foremost. But also just realize that like an hour, taking an hour to, dedicate your time and work on nuclear advocacy is like really all that you need. Whether it's like staying up to date with bills that are, working on being passed wherever you live, or just explaining very complicated nuclear things in very simple ways to people can really make the biggest difference.
Amazing. Yeah, because I want to go back to when you were in Antarctica and talking to, a non-engineering major. What did that conversation sound like? What were the points that you gave to be like, hey, actually, we're not killing people? And how do you do it in a way that's like gentle and persuasive?
I think a lot of people come into like these kinds of conversations with the idea that when they hear nuclear, they think of weapons. So first and foremost, just like separating those two. You don't even have to get into like enrichment or anything like that. You can keep it super, super simple. And then kind of talking through like, okay, let them talk first. So like, what have you seen or heard about nuclear? And kind of just like get to know them and their side of things a little bit more. And then, for example, if you're talking to a farmer, for example, maybe land is something that's super important to them, and you can talk about how compact nuclear is compared to other clean energy sources. And with nuclear, we really understand that land is valuable, and there'd be more land for farming. And we wouldn't need all this land for solar, wind, or whatever it is. So kind of just getting to know them, letting them do a lot of the talking instead of just giving them a straight up lecture right away.
Nice. So like listening.
Listening
Yeah,
actively.
very key. Very key. Amazing. And then within like Antarctica, like what were you guys doing down there? Because I'm like, ooh, Antarctica, that sounds really fun.
Texas A&M, and I think just college in general is such a good time to just say yes to everything. So it was actually with the oceanography department. So we were doing like interesting. It was a Fjord Fido NASA project. So we were collecting data for NASA, and just doing student research, which was super, super cool. Such a cool opportunity. And doing a lot of like oceanography science that I would have never done otherwise, but very cool.
Yeah, just like oceanography, NASA, Antarctica, it sounds very cool. I'm like, I am very jealous. I would like to do those things as well. Awesome. So now we're going to kind of move into our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And the first one is, how would you describe nuclear energy to a third grader?
Okay. So for my third grade birthday, I remember I had a piñata. So imagine if you went and you hit your birthday piñata and it split and it released a ton of energy, and also what's inside of a piñata, candy, right? So what if one of these pieces of candy was going so fast and had so much energy that it hit in reality actually going slow thermal neutron anyway, but it's going and it hits another pinata and that one splits. And then of course there's more candy and it's a chain reaction, more pinatas, more candy, lots of energy and nothing gross being emitted, right? It's just energy. And then we use that to heat up water somehow because pinatas can do that. And then that's nuclear energy. So that's how I would explain fission to a third grader.
I love it. And I also love the idea of like a piñata. That's like a very good visualization. I'm like, okay, like candy's everywhere, kids are
Yeah,
scrambling, kids are like the heat, it's getting
right.
hot, like
Yeah.
a mom has to like divert them down the road or something like that. Like, go
We're
cool, I'll get some
candy,
lemonade.
we're candy engineers. That's way more fun than being a
Oh,
nuclear.
for sure, for sure. Next question is, what hobbies do you have?
Hobbies. I love cooking. I like hiking and camping. I'm from northern Minnesota, so less so in the Texas heat, but grew up doing a lot of hiking and camping. I like reading. I actually like studying, believe it or not. I think eventually you just start to like it. And of course, I love advocating for nuclear energy.
Very cool. What's your favorite thing or like your top favorite dishes to cook?
Honestly, I like just taking whatever, and this is the college student in me. I like taking whatever I can find in my fridge and pantry and just making something completely new. So
Yeah.
never using like a recipe, just
Yeah, it's like the college like version of Chopped. You're like, all right,
right, exactly.
contestants,
Exactly.
you have ramen, sriracha packets, and an egg. Very cool. If you had to build a futuristic city, what would be in it? How would you design it?
Okay, well, obviously it'd be powered by nuclear. It could be coastal and we could use desalination, more nuclear. Um, And I mean, yeah, that's like, what else do you need besides uh, decay heat to heat buildings? Yeah, everything nuclear.
Yeah, it's like the one thing can do like eight other
Yeah,
things, which is like,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, you need fertilizer, nuclear. You need this, nuclear. You need, yeah, pretty much any answer, nuclear.
amazing. What has been one place that you have traveled for Narrow that you have really enjoyed if you've traveled somewhere?
So, NARO as a whole has gotten to travel to New York, DC, and I have we've gone to Austin a lot, and I have to say Austin would be my favorite just because the the excitement in Austin for nuclear is just like unmatched. I think in right now in Texas, there's just so much excitement about the nuclear renaissance and they all have this like can-do attitude that makes it really fun.
Amazing. What did you want to be when you were like 5?
When I was 5, I don't probably like a princess or something. Definitely not a nuclear engineer.
Okay, okay.
I think 5-year-old me would be really impressed with with where I'm at.
That's always a good answer. Like, I think 5-year-old would be proud.
I don't think she would understand much about what I do, but
Pinatas.
okay.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so for you and for Nero, what is your like big vision? Like 10 years, 20 years down the line, like what do you want for yourself, but also for the organization, and then also for nuclear?
Yeah, so NARO, first and foremost, it's a marketing company. It's a rebranding company and it's a movement. So 10 years in the future, I would love for NARO to be larger than life and really remarketing nuclear as clean, safe, and reliable. And I say that over and over again because that's really what marketing is. It's like changing this picture that people have in their minds of what nuclear is into something different, in this case, accurate. And so I think we would just keep growing, not only in members, but in this like idea, this movement. And for nuclear, I would like us to actually be building. Like, let's get building. Let's get actually utilizing this amazing solution that we have. It really is. It's just like the solution. And we are severely underutilizing it right now.
Yeah, I love it. Let's get building. I'm like, yes, let's. Any advice for students who are maybe interested in climate, the environment, advocacy, nuclear energy, anybody who, is just in that space of like, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. What would you suggest for them?
Yeah, like I said, you don't have to be a nuclear engineer for you to be involved in nuclear. So go find what you are interested in. Whether you like working with your hands and you want to do welding, cool. We need welders. Like, whether you like writing, cool. We need writers. Like, pretty much anything that you want to do is something that we can use in nuclear. And it's an incredible industry. It's really taking off. Again, for like the second time. I mean, people are calling this like the second renaissance. And I would say learn, get involved with, it doesn't need to be narrow, it probably should be. I mean, pretty cool, but it can be, whatever nuclear advocacy organization that catches your eye or in your area. And just get learning, get talking about it, and use your skills in this industry.
Amazing, amazing. Definitely, I would say, how should people get involved? If we're interested in listening, how should they get involved with NARO? How do they start to learn more? What websites would you direct them to?
All you have to do is look up nuclearadvocacy.org. That's us. And you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Instagram. And and yeah, you can reach out to me whenever.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this episode. I think it's really helpful. A lot of the points that you made were like so brilliant for students who like maybe do not identify with being good at math. There is something in there for you. For students who think nuclear will, bring about like the death of the world. Like there are conversations to be had, obviously, with our colleagues and people that we know in our network that maybe are not super familiar with what nuclear energy has to offer, as well as just, having the audacity. That is a very key takeaway for me. I'm like, have more audacity because yeah, it is very impressive what you've built with NARO, but just, to have graduated as a nuclear engineer and heading off into business school. So congrats.
Thank you.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Super to see what NARO has in store later.
Thank you so much.